Great successes grow from the smallest dreams. Nobody else can live your dreams for you. Every dream starts in a small room. No office, no funding, no payroll. Just three 17-year-olds in a borrowed attic space with 3 beat-up computers stitched together from spare parts. Luis, Mateo, and I had barely known each other, just a few conversations in the school library. But we decided to build something. Not to sell, not to go viral, just because we all had the same feeling. If we don't try now, we'll never be bold enough to try again. The room was tight. No AC. Windows jammed shut. A breeze through a crack felt like a gift. We slept on mats on the floor, shared cheap sandwiches, took turns on the machines. One day, my system froze from overheating. I grabbed a notebook and fanned the CPU for 20 minutes straight. We laughed, but deep down, we knew this wasn't a hobby anymore. This was the first time we were daring to live for something we believed in. I didn't know if we'd make it. We had no mentor, no roadmap, no investors. But I knew one thing for sure. I didn't want to live the life someone else had planned for me. I wanted to live mine, even if it was cramped, sweaty, and uncertain as this tiny room. Every morning, I woke thinking of unfinished code. Every night, I fell asleep picturing our app's layout. It was all blurry. We were inexperienced, but something bigger than me had started stirring inside my chest. A dream still formless, but breathing. No one can live your dream for you. No one can dream it on your behalf. And if you don't start living for it, you'll spend your whole life as a side character in someone else's story. A boy dreaming of freedom in a cramped room. No chairs, no desks. We coded on the floor, backs against the wall, feet curled around surge protectors. If the machine booted, we were lucky. If the screen didn't flicker, miracle. I remember one June night. The room felt like an oven. It was 1:47 a.m. Luis had passed out on the keyboard. Mateo lay curled in the corner, head resting on his backpack, still holding a wireframe sketch. No one complained. No one left. We were exhausted, but no one wanted to quit. Cold dinners, midnight instant noodles, fighting over a spare hard drive. It sounds poor, but I'd never felt as poor as I did when I was living someone else's dream. Here, I was tired, but I was free. And I was proud of that kind of tired. For the first time in my life, I wasn't working for grades. Not for my parents. Not for stability. I was working for something I believed in. Even if it was small. Even if it was naive. We were building a simple security tool for home computers. No client. No deadline. But every line of code we wrote carried something that felt like belief. Whenever I felt like giving in, I'd look around. 3 kids, 3 computers, 1 dream. This might lead nowhere, but I knew I couldn't go back. Back to pretending I loved subjects I hated. Back to faking stability while my soul was burning. In that tiny room, I learned something. Freedom isn't having it all. It's having the chance to live by what you believe, even if it costs your comfort, your sleep, and days spent being misunderstood. First project got noticed by the IT community. We never thought anyone would care about what we were building. It was a simple security tool. Let users lock a folder with a password on their personal machine. No flashy design, no fancy features, but every line of code was written with real intention. Matteo had the idea, what if we posted on Codewell, that IT forum from the States? Maybe someone gives feedback. I hesitated. What if they tear it apart? He grinned. Then they tear it apart. But worse than criticism is silence. So we bundled the source file and executable, posted it to Codewell, a small underground forum where young self-taught coders shared their passion projects. After we hit submit, none of us spoke, but we were all hoping, quietly. 3 days later, we got a comment. A user named G. North wrote, "Simple idea, clean execution, not bad for kids." He even offered a suggestion to improve our encryption logic. We read it over and over again, like students being called out by a professor in front of class. It was surreal. Even more shocking, within a week, our post had 80 downloads and 11 replies. People from New York, from Boston. One user from Thailand even wrote in broken English, "Good idea. I use it to protect my comic folder." We laughed until our sides hurt. For the first time, something we built had reached real people, outside this tiny, hot little room. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was worried, but because for the first time I felt like I had made something real. Not just for me, but for someone else. And that moved me to my core. We weren't famous. We hadn't made a cent. But I learned something that night. Success isn't about how much you earn. It's about the moment you realize what you built can actually touch someone's life. After that, I didn't code for fun anymore. I coded with the seriousness of someone trying to live by what he believes in. Success isn't measured by fame, but by inner conviction. After our project got noticed, I didn't feel better. I felt more real. No headlines, no investors, no explosion of followers. But something small had changed inside me. And that small thing was everything. I believed in what I was doing. Before that, every time I finished a script, I'd think, is this even worth it? Am I just wasting time? But now, someone had actually used what we built. And I didn't need validation, didn't need applause. I just knew what I was doing mattered. We didn't earn a penny from that first release, but the comments from strangers, they became fuel. One person wrote, "I'm not good with computers, but this tool made me feel safe." And that's when it hit me. You don't need to build something huge to feel successful. You just need to build something real, something kind, something with care, enough to make someone feel a little less alone. I stopped obsessing about when will I be rich, and I started focusing on, is what I'm building worth existing? That shift changed everything. Not outside, but inside. I no longer coded like someone trying something. I coded like someone building value, building belief, building himself. My dream or my parents' expectations? No one in my family knew about our first software. No one knew that my friends and I were starting a tiny startup in an attic. To my parents, I was still just a 17-year-old with average grades and no clear future. They were worried, and worry soon turned into pressure. One afternoon, my father called me outside. He wasn't angry, just quiet. He stood there a long while, then said, "You can do whatever you want, but eventually you have to be realistic. Ideas don't pay bills. I don't want you repeating my life, but you can't live on dreams either." I stood still. His words hit me hard, not cruelly, but deep. I wanted to say, "I'm not dreaming, Dad. I'm actually building something. I'm not promising success, but I know I'm moving in the right direction." But I didn't say anything, just nodded and smiled. The smile of someone who isn't believed, but chooses to move forward anyway. From that day on, I stopped talking about code, stopped sharing the good feedback, stopped showing off new scripts. I kept it all inside because I realized sometimes to protect your dream, you have to learn to be quiet, even with the people you love most. I kept working, kept meeting Luis and Mateo every evening, kept quietly building what I believed in, even when the people closest to me didn't. Your truth doesn't have to look like anyone else's. I started to understand not everyone has to get the path you're on, and your truth doesn't need to look like anyone else's. I stopped explaining what I was doing every night, stopped trying to justify why 3 teenage boys were spending every evening coding in a room with no air conditioning. I didn't flinch when cousins whispered, "That kid's always on the computer. Never studies. Probably addicted or something." I didn't answer when my mom sighed and said, "I wish you'd just pick up a trade like your uncle's son. At least he'll have a certificate." At first, it hurt. Then, it felt freeing. Because I didn't have to match anyone. Because what I was building didn't need their understanding. It only needed mine. And belief. Enough belief to not give up. I began to see solitude as part of the deal. A natural side effect of walking a path that isn't paved. No one lights the way. No one cheers. No one says, "Keep going. There's a light at the end." But I kept going anyway. Even if I wasn't sure where it led, I was sure of this. I couldn't live one more day pretending. And if I had to choose between real loneliness and fake connection, I'd choose loneliness. Because at least there, I was still myself. Our first major failure. We got our first real client, a small print shop on the edge of Columbus. The owner had heard about us through a friend and asked, "Can you guys build a tool to track, print jobs, and give daily summaries?" We said yes, too quickly. Within 2 weeks, we had a prototype. Simple design, bare-bones features. None of us had ever worked with a real client before, but we thought, if this works, it could change everything. Demo day. We wore collared shirts, printed out a little manual on our dying printer. Saturday, up straight trying to look professional. But when we installed the program, it crashed. On the very first run. No report. No email. Just a frozen screen. The shop owner looked at us, then said gently, "Try again tonight, but if it's not working tomorrow, I'll have to go with someone else." That night, our little attic felt heavier than ever. Mateo slammed the desk. Luis unplugged everything. I said nothing. No one slept. No one coded. No one mentioned the dream. The next morning, we got a message. Sending the final payment. Please uninstall your software. We silently removed it. No one said the word failure, but inside, it was like falling into a pit with no bottom. I asked myself, was this all just a fantasy? Were we just playing at something we didn't understand? Am I really cut out for this? For the first time, I doubted myself. Arguments erupted. Mateo wanted out. Luis blamed me for being too confident. I stayed quiet. It felt like everything I believed in was unraveling. All because of one mistake no one wanted to talk about. There were nights I just stared at the ceiling, listening to the fan spin, thinking, if this is where it ends, what's left of me? Perseverance isn't never falling. It's getting back up faster. A week after the crash, I still hadn't touched my computer. Luis was working extra shifts at a repair shop. Mateo had gone silent. Our first startup had unofficially dissolved. No goodbyes. No final meeting. Just silence. I sat in my room, staring at old lines of code, and wondered, is this the end? Then I remembered something a coder once posted on a forum. Every project fails at least once. Not to break you, but to teach you how to fix. I reopened the broken app, stared at the bugs. No blaming, no excuses. Just typed line 1, then line 2. I wasn't fixing it to redeem myself. I was fixing it because I couldn't stand walking away from something I still believed in. I called Luis. Simple question. Want to try again? He paused. I've been rewriting it too. Yeah, let's do it. 3 days later, Mateo rejoined the group chat with a message. Got room for me? No speeches. Just shared files. And we were back at it. This time, we kept it simple. A stripped-down version of our print tracker. No push to sell. Just gave it to a local cafe that printed receipts. No big pitch. We said, try it. If it makes your life easier, that's enough for us. 2 weeks later, they replied, it works great. Let us know if you update it. Not a big win, but no anxiety this time. Just calm, a quiet confidence that we had gotten back up, and that mattered. I realized perseverance doesn't mean you never fall. It means you fall and you rise faster than last time. Quietly, deliberately, bravely, you begin again. Living not just to survive, but to find meaning. One late night, after releasing a new version of our software, I stayed in the room long after the fans stopped whirring. No more typing, no more noise, just me and silence. And in that silence, something became clear. I wasn't doing this to escape poverty anymore. I was doing it because I genuinely loved it. I used to think I was coding to make money, to prove something, to be acknowledged. But now, I saw it plain. I wasn't continuing because I had to. I was continuing because I wanted to. I didn't need applause. Didn't need anyone to say, this kid is brilliant. I just needed to wake up in the morning and think, I'm still doing something I believe in. And that was enough to make life feel like it was heading somewhere true. Luis and Mateo changed too. We didn't speak with a wide-eyed wonder of dreamers anymore. We were calmer, more grounded. But beneath that calm was the quiet strength of young men who had fallen and chosen to rise again with full hearts. Our startup didn't have a name, no website, no buzz. But in my heart, it had already become a place, a space where I could be honest. I realized we're not meant to just survive each day, not just meant to work and pay bills, but to go to sleep at night and smile quietly, knowing today I lived a little closer to who I really am. Greatness always starts from the smallest dreams. We didn't call it a startup anymore. Didn't have to. The name didn't matter. All we knew was every line of code we wrote made someone's day a little easier. A shop owner, a tired clerk, or just us. 3 kids trying to figure out where we belonged. No praise, no fan base, no funding. But every morning, we still showed up to work with the quiet determination of people who knew what they were chasing. Not naive anymore, not hardened either, just steady. I remember one night, after fixing a tiny bug, I stood at the window, staring out at the dark. Same room, same noisy computer, but something inside me had shifted. I wasn't worried about when success would come. I just wanted to keep building, slowly, quietly, with no guarantees. Because now I believed, real value always begins in the smallest of places. I used to think success was being known, being rich, being remembered. But now I understood, success is being able to keep going, even when no one's watching. It's doing what you believe in, even when no one claps. That's when you know you're living a life no one else can live for you.
My father once told me, he learned something important at 17. You can grow from even the smallest dreams, as long as you're brave enough to begin. You don't need funding. You don't need anyone's permission. You just need to keep building what you believe in. Quietly, steadily, faithfully. Because in the end, what makes us grow isn't how fast we move, but how loyal we remain to a path only we can see. Hello everyone, I'm Lily, the youngest daughter of Victor Dominic. My father shared these stories, not to be remembered, but to remind us. Everyone deserves a new beginning, even the broken ones. Some names and places have been changed for privacy, but Free Your Soul is real, and it's the most precious legacy he left us. Today, I'm sharing it with you, hoping it reaches someone who needs a quiet, gentle whisper. Thank you for listening with your heart. I'll see you in the next stories.